All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling something that, let's be honest, gets millions of us stuck: overthinking. We're going to break down what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to stop it. So, have you ever felt like your brain is just stuck on a loop? Replaying that one conversation, or second-guessing a decision you made hours ago, or just worrying about a future that hasn't even happened. It's like your own personal DJ is spinning the same stressful track over and over, and you just can't find the stop button.
And look, this isn't just some quirky personality trait. It's a real thing called analysis paralysis. It completely drains your energy and just keeps you from moving forward. But here's the good news. It's a pattern, and any pattern can be broken. Today, we're going to learn exactly how.
Okay, so the first step to getting out of any trap, right? You gotta know you're in it. So let's start there. What does overthinking actually look and feel like?
Let's talk about Frida. This story from therapist Emma McAdam is just a perfect example of this in action. Frida had two job offers. One had a better salary, but was way more stressful. The other offered great work-life balance, but less pay. She went back and forth, weighing the pros and cons endlessly, until she was completely paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. And you know what happened? She ended up losing both opportunities. Her story just shows that overthinking isn't about being thoughtful, it's about being stuck.
So Frida's story is a big dramatic example, right? But overthinking shows up in smaller ways for all of us every single day. And it's not just in your head, it's a whole body thing. It's the racing thoughts, sure, but it's also the tense shoulders, that weird feeling in your stomach, or just feeling irritable for no reason. And behavior-wise, it's replaying conversations over and over, doubting decisions you've already made, and constantly imagining the absolute worst-case scenario. If any of that feels familiar, you are definitely in the right place.
All right, so what is actually happening in our brains when we get caught in these loops? It's so important to understand that this isn't some kind of moral failing, It's a neurological habit.
And this is a really important distinction to make. The difference between healthy reflection and its toxic cousin, rumination. See, reflection is productive. You think about something to learn from it, to solve a problem. Rumination, that's just spinning your wheels. You're stuck on the problem, stuck on the bad feelings, and you're not going anywhere. It's like the difference between reviewing game film to get better versus just watching your biggest mistake on repeat.
So deep in your brain, there's a thing called the default mode network, or DMN for short. Think of it like your brain's screensaver. It kicks on when you're daydreaming or thinking about the future. But for overthinkers, this network doesn't just kick on, it goes into total overdrive. It becomes this superhighway for worry, making it easier and easier to get stuck every time. Now here's the crazy part. Every single time you overthink, you're basically paving that mental road a little deeper, like walking the same path in the grass until it's a muddy trail. But, and this is the best part, your brain is incredibly adaptable. It's called neuroplasticity. This means you can literally forge new paths. You can build new, calmer, more productive thought highways. It takes practice, for sure, but your brain can learn a new way.
Okay, so this isn't just some annoying little habit. Overthinking has real costs. It's quietly chipping away at your happiness, your opportunities, pretty much your whole well-being.
So let's break down the fallout, piece by piece. It leads to decision fatigue, where even choosing what to have for dinner feels like a monumental task. It causes missed opportunities, just like with Frida. It creates this awful, chronic cycle of indecision and regret that leaves you emotionally exhausted. And of course, it just ramps up your stress and anxiety, creating a vicious cycle that can feel impossible to break.
And get this, here's a totally wild twist from recent research. It's called the happiness paradox. It turns out that constantly analyzing and grading your own happiness is one of the fastest ways to kill it. The very act of asking, "Am I happy enough right now?" can ruin a perfectly good moment. Sometimes, happiness just needs to be felt, not inspected. A Reddit user put it perfectly. When you worry endlessly about something terrible happening, you're making your mind and body live through all the stress of that event, whether it actually happens or not. You end up suffering twice for something that might only exist in your head. All right, we've talked enough about the problem. Let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. We're going to walk through a toolkit of 4 really powerful, practical strategies you can start using like today to break the cycle and take back control. Okay, first up, for when you feel that spiral starting right now, use the MAP framework. M is for Mark. Just say it out loud. I am overthinking this. Naming it actually dials down its power. A is for attack. Challenge that vague worry. Ask yourself, what is the absolute worst that could happen? And how would I deal with it? Get specific. And finally, P is for push to action. Do one small thing, send one email, make one call. Action literally short-circuits the worry part of your brain. Now, for those bigger, scarier decisions, the kind of paralyzed Frida, you need to get the thoughts out of your head and onto paper. And this is where a decision matrix is just brilliant. List your options across the top and list what matters to you down the side: cost, time, enjoyment, whatever. You can even give each one a weight for how important it is. Then you just score them. It turns this messy, emotional swirl into a clear, simple comparison. Suddenly, the best path forward becomes obvious. Okay, so we went from a kind of complex tool to one that is beautifully simple. It's called the 10-10-10 rule. When you're stuck, just ask yourself 3 questions. How will I feel about this in 10 minutes? What about in 10 months? And in 10 years? This little trick forces your brain to zoom out and get some perspective. You'll realize most of the stuff we agonize over won't even be a blip on the radar in 10 months, let alone 10 years. And last but not least, a mantra you really got to adopt. Done is better than perfect. A lot of overthinking comes from perfectionism, from trying to find that one single perfect answer. But guess what? Perfection is a myth. Embracing good enough lets you take action, make progress, and actually move forward. And progress, even if it's messy, is always, always better than standing still.
So those tools are fantastic for putting out fires in the moment. But if you want to build long-term resilience, to fireproof your mind, so to speak, you need a consistent routine. Start your day with some sunlight and movement. It really helps set your internal clock. Then, during the day, try to check off 3 boxes: one productive task, one physical task, and one task just for fun. And finally, at night, create a wind-down ritual. Get your thoughts out of your head and into a journal, and put the screens away an hour before bed. This simple structure gives your mind a solid foundation, making you way less likely to spiral.
So when you boil it all down, all of these strategies, they all point to one huge shift in how you operate, choosing action over analysis.
You know, the philosopher Schopenhauer once talked about the mind being like a double-edged sword. It can be this amazing tool for creating and solving problems, or it can be a trap that just makes you suffer. The goal here isn't to stop thinking. That's impossible. The goal is to learn how to use your mind effectively, to point all that powerful thinking in a productive direction instead of letting it run wild.
And this quote from Emma McAdam just nails the final piece of the puzzle. Confidence isn't about always being right. It's about being willing to be wrong. It's about being okay with making imperfect choices, learning from them, and trusting that you can handle whatever happens next. It's about choosing progress over paralysis every time.
So at the end of the day, it really is a choice. You don't have to be a prisoner inside your own head. By seeing the signs, understanding how it works, and using these tools, you can break the cycle. You can turn your mind from a source of anxiety into your greatest ally. That power is all yours.